Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Karen Cruiser. Phillips, the news is live at noon. Topping the news at this time, the Trade Union Federation will be keeping an open mind as they prepare to head into a meeting with the Prime Minister. After several requests, the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, has agreed to meet with members of the trade union movement at 2 p.m. today. Speaking with CNews, President of the Federation of Independent Trade Unions and Non-Governmental Organizations, Joseph Remy, said they have met with the PM on several occasions previously. However, nothing has come of it.
While we have a meeting, that doesn't mean that we have resolution to the myriad of issues that would have been identified. We want to keep the expectations open because we have had meetings in the past without much success, and we would hope that in the context of what is happening in the country now and how deep some of the problems have been seated in the society, that there would be a more considered effort this time around to find solutions, and that the trade union movement would be given its due respect in terms of a way forward to some of the economic and social challenges the country has been faced with.
Last Friday, the trade union movement had delivered a letter to the office of the Prime Minister highlighting several issues they want to be addressed, among them retrenchment of workers, crime, and other social issues. To some crime news now. Police are investigating two murders which occurred in South Trinidad. In the first incident, Darrell Vincent, 49, of Ridgewood Gardens, Golconda, was killed in the porch of his home late on Tuesday. Reports state shortly before 10 o'clock, gunshots were heard. Neighbors reported the incident, and officers found Vincent's body on a sofa in the porch. Vincent had wounds to the chest and legs. Police found 7 shell casings at the scene. In another incident, Permanent Basdeo was shot dead shortly after leaving his home in Barrackpore this morning. Reports are shortly after 6 o'clock, Basdeo was leaving his Canai Road home when he was confronted by a gunman. Basdeo, aged 61, died at the scene of the shooting. There are also reports of a third murder along the train line in Claxton Bay. This incident took place at around 10 o'clock this morning. Details are still coming in, but CNews understands a handyman, only known as Primchand, was shot dead in the area. He was known to people in the area, as Borough's investigators are said to be on the scene at this time. While police cordoned off parts of the Wassa compound in St. Joseph following a shooting in Bangladesh this morning, reports are shortly after 6, Deek Skeet, also known as Koo, was involved in an argument with a woman at Farm Road when another man intervened with a gun. Skeet of Mount Hope was shot and ran into the Wassa compound to evade his attacker. Skeet was eventually taken to hospital. He is said to be in a stable condition. However, police cordoned off Farm Road and parts of the Wassa facility as they searched for the gunman and conducted inquiries into the incident. To other news now, the TNT Express sailed on time this morning from Tobago to Trinidad and is expected to be leaving Trinidad right about now to make its way back to the sister isle. The sailings on Tuesday were delayed after the vessel experienced electrical problems. Those problems were fixed and the vessel arrived in Trinidad last night after it left Tobago at 6:30 p.m. Following this, it went back to Tobago. This morning, the 6:30 sailing left on time, and we're told the noon sailing back to Tobago would be on schedule. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the president of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, Michael Anisette, has a special interest in the superfast Galicia, hence his statements. Mr. Anisette had called for the minister to be fired because he failed to sign the charter party agreement for the vessel to stay in Trinidad, putting us in the current position. During a meeting with stakeholders in Tobago on Monday, Dr. Rowley explained why he thinks Mr. Anisette has a vested interest in this vessel.
If you're supplying service of $1 million a month on the Galicia, and the Galicia doesn't win the bid, and you'll be upset, and you want the minister to go to? If you have an interest in providing labor on the port, on the boat, and services for your own benefit, and it's going out to tender, but at least respect the rest of us.
This is the CNews Live report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at CNews Live. The body of 55-year-old Richard Baird has not been retrieved from the Aripo forest, but officers there are trying to do so at this time. His body was found on Tuesday evening after he was reported missing. And we will have more on this story as the information comes to hand. Well, the Island Hikers has now shared its side of the story as it relates to the death of 55-year-old Richard Baird. CNews contacted the group Mr. Baird was with on the hike, and they told Rishi Harinanan their side of the story.
Maria Russell from Island Hikers told us it rained on Saturday morning. However, the hike was to go on. It started at about 5:45 a.m. The trip to Hollis Waterfall through the Aripo Forest is normally 3 hours, but due to the weather, it took about 5 hours. Russell said despite that, everyone made it to the waterfall, including Baird. The problem started when the group left at around noon. According to Russell, there was a difficult mountain to climb, and while Baird was able to make it to the top, on the way up, he complained of cramps.
While going up, he also complained of cramps, and I sprayed his foot with spray to help him. He said his calves was cramping and whatnot. We eventually reached the top of the mountain, and we only had an hour or less to go before we finished the hike. So before we finished the 10-hour hike, which it would take. On the home stretch now, I noticed that his shoes, the sole of his shoes had come off.
Russell said he told Baird to take caution as the mountain was slippery and his shoe was already in a bad state. At this point, Russell took lead, leaving Baird at number 3 in the line of 9 people.
On the home stretch, coming to the end of the hike, probably about, I would say, half an hour to 45 minutes before we finish. At one time I stopped because I know everybody was very tired, especially this back group. We all were tired and exhausted. I stopped and I asked him if he was okay. I told him I have to be in front if he was okay, and his words to me was, yes, I'm okay.
The group proceeded.
At the point where the incident happened, there was a landslide where they had pick on the ground, so his shoes was bad. So although I in front and other people is behind him, the way how the forest is, you can't really always see a person, or you may be a few meters from them, but the trail is winding. It's not like you're going through thick bush. You know, this is a created trail on the mountain ridge. It's not like a regular trail that you would see.
While crossing, Russell said Baird may have slipped and went down the landslide and may have hit his head.
What made it so difficult to find him is he walked away. He was able to get up and walk before collapsing. So he walked parallel to the trail and was able to collapse. So the people who coming behind him, although they were very close behind him, did not notice, like there were 6 people coming behind him, did not notice anything.
Russell went on to explain, when the hike was completed and they realized Baird was missing, a search was launched. However, they were unable to find him. He did explain Baird was an experienced hiker of 9 years. He further stated the advertisement for the hike gave all information, including the date, time, assembly point, and the hike was 9 unclassified, which means very challenging, only for experienced hikers accustomed to walking long trails. It noted casual or novice hikers should not attempt. Unsure of one's fitness, please call to discuss. Rishi Harinanan, CNews.
Well, Mr. Russell said people must understand the risk associated with hikes before casting blame.
And in hiking and all things, accidents can happen. People can slip. I would get blamed because, you know, we didn't see him slip, but because of the nature of the trail where it's a winding, blocking trail, and you can't really see the person in front of you. Accidents can happen on a trail. And on top of that, it rained on Saturday morning, very much. And I mean, I did caution him. Much I did realize so and so. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have to try and walk out. I mean, there's no, on these trails, this is a trail when you're in, there are no escape routes.
Now for the weather. Generally hot and sunny conditions expected this afternoon, with showers or thunder showers likely in a few areas. Tonight will be mostly clear and hazy. Seas are slight, waves are 1 meter in open waters and near calm in sheltered areas. The interim secretary of the Hikers Association, Michael Jatan, says while hiking has a lot of risks, it's up to the organizations to work with people to minimize the likelihood of something going wrong. This follows the discovery of the body of 55-year-old Richard Baird. He went missing last Saturday while on a hike. His body was discovered on Tuesday afternoon.
to ensure that, for example, their hike leaders are trained in first aid and continuously recertified in first aid, also trained in life-saving, have a knowledge of fauna and flora, and have that basic skills in terms of managing a group, keeping persons together at all times, both going in and coming back out from a hiking destination.
He said there should be a ratio of 10 hikers to 1 leader. However, in some cases, the ratio should be 5 to 1, depending on the risk of the trail. He also talked about the importance of having proper hiking gear, especially shoes.
You don't want to pick up a shoe, as it were, that has been just cast in a corner for a couple of months when you decide to start hiking, because invariably what happens is that it's dry rot and the sole falls off, and that's a common occurrence. So you want to invest in a proper hiking shoe, looking at what is available and using that when you decide to undertake a hike.
To some other news now, Watson Duke has announced that his swim protest will take place next Monday. The THA minority leader has said he and his supporters will attempt to swim to Toco. Now he plans to do this to highlight the issues affecting Tobagonians due to the challenges on the sea bridge.
Would be staging a protest via the sea, where we will commence by swimming from this port towards Toco. We are not sure exactly where we will reach insofar as Toco, Sanssouci, Port of Spain. Wherever we reach, we know it will be the North Coast. By whatever means is necessary, we will take that means, but we'll commence by swimming. And we are doing this understanding the peril out there, understanding that the water is mixed and the currents are heavy, that there are different types of fish out there. True. That could be dangerous.
Mr. Duke says both he and his THA minority colleague, Farley Augustine, will attempt the swim. Now he believes the action is necessary to highlight how seriously Tobago has been affected by this issue.
What is the Assemblyman, Farley and I, we will not jeopardize the entire minority council. We're going to let Dr. Faith sail easily and securely on a boat or vessel. And Brother Farley and I, who were born fishermen, and then we became normal men, and then became assemblymen. That's what, Brother Farley? We were born fishermen. We will commence our journey right here by swimming.
Residents of the Southeast Port of Spain group CIPOS have voiced their displeasure with Mayor Joel Martinez's statement regarding the issue of homelessness in the capital. On Sunday, during the celebrations for the 200th anniversary of the Queen's Park Savannah, the Port of Spain mayor spoke of plans to improve the capital city, one of them being to build a place to house displaced citizens. But while CIPOS is definitely in agreement with the mayor's plans, they are not pleased that Mr. Martinez did not give them specific recognition. In a release, CIPOS said the real stakeholders from the community groups are in fact the persons who actually live and work in the specific areas, and as such they should be a part of the solution, not only NGOs like the Rotary Clubs and the Chamber of Commerce as tagged by the mayor. The group says it hopes that the mayor will broaden his scope to include other stakeholders in the communities who have a vested interest in the proposed development, as they will be directly affected by the changes. The Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, is demanding the Tobago House of Assembly deal with what seems to be a poor work ethic on the island, especially for people who are on the government payroll. He wants this to be done very fast. Dr. Rowley drew a first-hand example of what's taking place.
I'm going in the bush at 6 o'clock, 6:15 to be exact. And they were leaving. They were leaving. The workers were leaving. Driving off the car to leave the workplace on the government payroll. Of course, who paying them? The taxpayer paying them to leave at 6:15. I don't know what time they got them. Might have been 3 o'clock, I don't know. But they were leaving at 6:15.
And he wants the THA to get its act together.
And I am saying this to the Deputy Chief Secretary. If encouragement of that kind of foolishness is what's going to guarantee you remaining in office in Tobago, then you need to be put out of office in Tobago, because that will give us no work.
Well, the Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sinanan, is getting the support of the Prime Minister for his handling of the ferry fiasco. Many have called for the Minister to be fired for his role in what took place, but the Prime Minister doesn't seem to think Mr. Sinanan did anything that warrants his dismissal.
If it wasn't for this Minister of Works, we would never have known what is going on at the port of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm very grateful to the Minister for doing the job he was appointed to do.
And the Minister of Works and Transport says he's not at all pressured by the ongoing investigation into the procurement process of the Ocean Flower 2 passenger ferry, as he points out that the process has less to do with the Minister and more to do with the board of the Port Authority. However, the Minister said if he, as line minister, is found to have fault in the matter, action should be taken.
Once the fact shows that there was crookedness, I think heads should roll. And if there is an indictment on the minister, then I think the minister head should roll. And if it's at the board, then the board should roll. And if it's at the management, then the management needs to be accountable.
Well, we start with horse racing. All roads lead to Santa Rosa Park, where a 10-race card is on tap for Independence Day, when another big day of local horse racing unfolds. 2 feature events will spearhead the day's proceedings, including the prestigious Massey United Insurance Trinidad Derby, the granddaddy of them all, featuring 11 top 3-year-olds, which has Dennis Benessir over the moon as his company tries to replicate the success they have had in Barbados over the years.
Massey United Insurance has successfully sponsored this version of the Derby race in Barbados for the last 33 years. This year, the Garrison Savannah in Barbados witnessed one of the biggest crowds in the Derby's history. It was a day not only for horse racing lovers, but one for the entire family. And our vision, as we invest in the Trinidad version, is to create that same atmosphere at the track in Arima. We believe that to have a sound investment, you need a solid base. And the Derby, which features the best 3-year-olds running for supremacy, ensures that the future of the racing is strong.
And to make the whole thing official, the presentation of the Crystal Cup was made to the president of the Arima Race Club, Peter Akam, to make the whole association formal. And when the dust cleared after the draw for starting stalls, Leading Lady will race out of gate number 8, while Valorous is not too far over in 4. Hello is on the inside in gate number 1, while way on the outside, Golden Choice will be the furthest from the rails. They will be sharing a purse of $350,000 in this one. The co-feature, the Massey Remittances Independence Cup, will see Madiba start in stall number 1, while Trini Navigator runs out of stall number 4, while This One's for Run flies out of gate 7 in this one. And that's it for sport. And that's how we end our CNews report at noon. I'm Karen Kozier-Phillip. Remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, you can visit the CNews website at ctvtt.com. Do have a good afternoon.